Hi everyone! So this week we wanted to do something a little bit different. We want to give you guys a behind the scenes look at more the numbers side of our house flipping. So the house that we're working on right now is our third house, and we've done 2 houses before. So we wanted to go through and just kind of give you guys a little bit of the background information as to how we found the house and what the numbers turned out to be, what we put into the houses to fix them up, and what we profited.
When you're buying an investment property, the very first step to take is all the numbers have to make sense before you ever buy the property. So the formula that we go through when we buy a house is we figure out what the neighborhood's after repaired value is, meaning like what will the neighborhood support in a house that's fixed up. What's the top dollar that the neighborhood will support?
That we could sell for.
Yeah, that we could sell for. We got our top after repaired value minus repairs, minus realtor fees and closing costs, which is here it's typically 6%, 3 to the buyer's agent, 3 to the seller's agent, and then about a 1.5% to closing costs, and then minus
holding costs.
Holding costs is another thing to factor into there.
We usually don't factor holding costs, which is like what you pay monthly for the house, because we're living in it and we need somewhere to live anyway. So we usually don't factor those holding costs in.
So after the holding costs, then you factor in your profit. And I think typically if you're doing like a 3-month or 2-month flip, you want to make at least 20 grand. I mean, you can just figure out whatever profit you want to make out of it. For us, knowing that it's going to be part-time, going to take us a year, really we want to make a minimum of 50 grand. But anyway, we do all that math before we ever buy the house. That valuation, that total number, that tells us what our offer is going to be. Honestly, the first house we bought was kind of just luck. Just fell into it, really. It
was the only house that we could afford, really, is what it was. It was the crappiest house on the market, and it was the only one we could afford.
Yeah. But the other houses, we knew going into them that the risk of losing money was about zero. The risk of breaking even was very slim, and the risk of making money was pretty huge. The very first house that we bought, like Sarah said, we just fell into because it was all that we could afford. We had been married for about a year, no kids yet, and decided that we had about 10 grand or something like that saved up. Decided we were going to buy a house and looked at quite a few of them
for months. We looked for months,
and ended up finding this house that was a HUD home and had renters in it before it went vacant.
And it had renters that got upset, I think, right? That were getting evicted, and they did a lot of damage to the house. But
there was holes in the wall, there was tons of damage everywhere. So we ended up moving into that house, and the house was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1 bathroom upstairs, 1 bathroom downstairs. And we moved into 1 bedroom downstairs that had about 3/4 of fairly decent new carpet, and the rest of the basement was just, it had flooded, so it had all been ripped out. It was just old linoleum or something like that. And it had the shower, the bathroom, and everything wasn't too bad, but the
shower?
Wasn't that gross.
The shower was leaking, and so Travis just had to go in there and caulk the heck out of it because we couldn't even use the shower because it was just leaking out into the laundry room every time we showered.
So I caulked it and it was fine.
You crazy? That was the worst.
It wasn't that bad. Yeah, so we had basically a bedroom and a bathroom. Downstairs is where we lived while we fixed up the rest of the house, and we started just fixing up the upstairs, and once we got it fixed up, we moved upstairs.
So when we first bought the house, we weren't planning on flipping it or selling it or anything like that. We were planning on living there for 5 to 10 years and then renting it out once we could move on and buy another house. But after a few months of us being there, the house next to us sold for, I think it was like $220, and we had bought the house for $150, and that just absolutely blew our minds because we had no idea that houses in that neighborhood could go for that much. And so that's kind of what started the wheels turning of, well, maybe we should fix this up a little bit nicer than we were planning and a little bit faster than we were planning and sell the house.
Yeah, I started listening to podcasts about house flipping and stuff like that like crazy. And my background came from my dad owning rentals and using me as slave labor to work on all of his rentals. But that he taught me how to work, namely, and between the different skills that he taught me as we worked on rentals and YouTube videos, I just went for it, and we just worked our brains out for a little while. And we had tons of help from family, mainly Sarah's dad and mom. They helped us a ton on that first house and gave us really awesome design ideas too that made a big difference on that house.
As far as how that house worked out for us, how much we made, we bought the house for $150 and we sold the house for $239, and we estimate that we put about, was it 20 grand?
20
about
grand.
20 grand into it, and then
2
we paid,
years.
Yeah, for 2 years. That's all of our money. And then we paid, at that time Travis wasn't a real estate agent, so we had someone just in our neighborhood who was a real estate agent. We had her list the house. And so I think between closing costs and real estate agent fees, we paid about $18,000. So we profited about $51,000 on that house. And we felt like we were millionaires.
When we were getting close to finishing that house, we were also getting close to having a baby.
Yeah.
And we had, like Sarah said earlier, we had put in every dime into this house. And we got to a point where we had just the kitchen left, and we had the baby coming, and we could take our last couple thousand and put it into this kitchen and be totally broke for the baby coming. So we decided we were going to flip it and capitalize on the equity that we had gained in fixing it up. And so we, as fast as we could, put in like a $4,000 or $5,000 kitchen. We're 100% broke, sold the house, made a big lump sum. I think it was a check of like $70-something thousand, but not all of that was profit. That's just the equity we had built into the house. Anyway, we got like that $70,000 check, moved into a rental apartment, and
like a week later, Lincoln was born.
yeah, I look back on that house really fondly. We had some good fun times there, and fun times figuring out how to work on a house and everything. Sold that house, got a chunk of money, had a baby, and that $18,000 that I had to pay in realtor fees just killed me. I couldn't stomach paying that much in realtor fees. So I spent the next 3 months or something, 2 months or something like that, getting my real estate license at night, and started looking for our next house. Ended up finding our next house on the MLS. And the day it was listed, I don't even think we went and looked at it. I had done a whole bunch of research, mainly through podcasts and Facebook groups and stuff that of house flippers. So I had figured out kind of the numbers side of all this, and realized that this house was way below what the neighborhood was going for. And we put in an offer on that house without even going to see it.
And then in fact, you made an offer for $5,000 below, and they like accepted it immediately. And all of a sudden we were like, oh crap.
Yeah. Oh, did we just screw up? Like that was too
why
easy.
Why did they accept our offer? And so then after they accepted it and we were under contract, we're like, oh my gosh, we've got to get in this house and see what's going on.
So we went and looked at it, and everything made sense to us. I think there was an electrical surprise. We ended up getting like another $4 or $5 grand off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we ended up buying that house for $165, and that house was even worse than the first house we bought.
Yeah, that one.
Everything
I think that's
was
the worst house
old,
we've done.
and everything was nasty, and holes in the wall.
But not just like old; it was like really dirty, really dirty.
One of the bedroom bedrooms in the basement was just soaked in cat pee. I
Yeah.
guess the people had moved out but left their cats in the house.
And they just left a window open so the cats would come in and out as they pleased.
And so
it
one
was so
bedroom
smelly.
particularly was just destroyed with cat pee.
Like
and
pee on the walls,
I
on
had
the carpet.
I had no idea going into it how terrible that would be, but we could not get that smell to go away. I ended up having to rip out a bunch of drywall in there. I painted everything in there until I couldn't smell it. It all seemed
You did
just
like a
good.
urine killer cleaner.
Oh
too.
yeah, I used
Yeah.
on the concrete. I soaked it with this urine cleaner, pet urine cleaner, and anyway, then let that dry and kills it all. And then I thought it was all fixed. We replaced the drywall. We put in new carpet. We
Yeah.
moved in, and that smell came back.
We had to pull up our brand new carpet and did you re-kills it?
I caulked
Kills.
and re-kills everything. I did 2 more coats of kills, so we ended up doing like 3 or 4 coats of kills
terrible.
over everything. And then we never smelt it after that.
Yeah.
But
Well, and another surprise that we had in that house too was, I think it was like a day or two before we had to be out of our last, the house that we rented. Travis went upstairs to the kitchen and turned on the kitchen sink, and all of a sudden there was just water pouring all into the
laundry room right below it.
And so Travis went and looked at the plumbing, and you could just poke your finger through all the horizontal piping. It was all
It was copper piping that I assumed just Drano or something had eaten through the copper piping, but it was
And-
all shot. It was
Yeah.
all gone.
the slope was opposite of what it should have been, so we assumed that the drains were really slow, so they'd pour Drano or something down there, but all the piping was just gone, like done for. And we'd even had a home inspection too. That was a little
Our
frustrating.
home inspector did not do his job.
Did not.
And the numbers of that house, we bought it for $165. We spent a year, again part-time, fixing it up. We sold that one for $254, and again made about 50 grand in profit.
a
A little more money in that one to fix it up. I think it was about 25,000-30,000 to fix up, and then only had half the realtor fees in that one because I was the other real estate agent in it. So the way that we've done these houses by living in them and just doing them part-time, that's for sure not the smartest way to flip houses and to make money flipping houses. I mean, especially with the family that we have and with kids, we just don't want to take that risk. We're being too conservative. So to figure out the numbers before we ever even put in an offer on a house, and to look at the area and to look at everything we have to fix, we're really minimizing the risk, in my mind, to almost zero about losing money.
Well, and where we live in the actual houses, I mean, even if the market dropped right now, we could
We
just
would just
stay in this
stay.
house. We aren't going to
Exactly.
lose our money or anything like that.
Yeah, everything we've done in such a way that we'd be able to make the payments and float it forever. But
So it's basically just a good way for us to make some side money to invest in our future. Well, we hope you enjoyed our video today. If you have any questions for us, just put them down in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that you can follow along with us.